State chart diagram. Okay, as the name can see, most of the answer you don't have to memorize. The reason being is if you try to conceptually understand the name itself, you will understand and you don't have to memorize it. And that's what you want. You don't want to just take a book and just try to memorize the stuff. Don't try that. Otherwise you will struggle during an interview. So as the name says, state chart, that means what is the current state? Let's say that's where you will use the state chart. What is the future state? What is the current state? Means how that object is right now. That's what it is. So the name of the diagram itself clarifies the purpose of the diagram and other details. It describes different states of a component in a system. The states are specific to a component object of a system. A state chart diagram describes a state machine. Now, to clarify it, state machine can be defined as a machine which defines different states of an object, and these states are controlled by external or internal events. Lot to read about theoretical. Okay, let's jump on to the practical and let's understand that. Now, see this. This is a order management, or the previous slide which we saw was the shipment. Now this is an order management. How that is going to maintain the state? What is the state? Where exactly you utilize the state management? How do you know? See here. Again, the common functionality over here, what you see is the start and the end. Always end is your final state and starting point is your starting state. So now in this, as you see here, initial state, okay, you start it. Initial state is your idle. Now you initiated that. Send order request. When you say send order request, this is an intermediate state as it says over here. That means right now, what is the current state? Let's say you are trying to track an order. And if I ask you that, okay, Lavanya, what is the current state? So you will tell me that, okay, the current state is send order request. That means you will say that, okay, we need to send an order request. That is the current state. Next, select normal or special order. So if I ask you that, okay, where exactly my order is, what is the state of my order? You will say we are just trying to, I called you because I wanted to know that, okay, you want the expedite shipment or you want the normal shipment. A normal shipment, we have it as a 2 days and 3 days round shipping, and for expedite we have it as an overnight. Which one you want? So that is your current state, where you are trying to select what is the normal order or what is the way you want that order. Let's say I confirm you that, okay, go on and do the normal shipment. So now immediately you will confirm that. That means that order is confirmed. So the current state is, so when you do that online ordering, when you are buying something, what happens? What it says that, okay, that shopping cart, you select all the options, then you check out. Checkout is your state. So right now your order is what state? Your order is in checkout state. Similarly to this, once it is checked out, then it is in payment processing state, because that is just going through the payment processing right now. Once the payment processing is done, then what is it's a order confirmation. Okay, the system will check whether they have it in the inventory or not, whether that stuff is available or not, and then based on that it will send you the confirmation that, okay, this shipment will arrive in 5 days. That is your order confirmation. Once that order confirmation is done, so till then you just have the state of that product is, state of that system is as order confirmation. The moment they initiate that dispatch, that order confirmation will change to dispatch order. So the state changed from order confirmation to dispatch, because now it is on its way to you. So that is a dispatch order. Now that's how your transaction got completed. Okay. So this is what is your state chart, okay, and that's where you use it. You think about any example and ask me, then I will elaborate on them. Are you clear on this? Both of you?
Yeah.
Okay. So when we will do the classroom exercise, we will use some other samples too, so that we understand how to do that, okay? And that's how you will understand. We will see how many of diagrams we are able to do, but we will do some hands-on so that at least you learn some Visio also on the other side, okay? So we will do, I am not sure that we'll be able to do everything, but most of the things like sequence, activity, all these things we'll be able to do it. Because sequence, activity and your UML, these three are the more and more demanding topic in the market right now. So when you go for a business analyst interview, there are chances they will give you the situation and ask you that, okay, what kind of a diagram works best? Or they don't even tell you that, okay, they will just tell you that, okay, can you just do the pictorial representation of this requirement? And then you have to make a decision that, okay, whether to use sequence, whether to use activity, or whether to use UML. Whichever you use, you need to make sure if you use UML, you have to identify the actors. If you are using sequence, you have to identify the activator. If you are using activity, you have to define and nail down all the activities, each and every activity and the sequence of that. That's what you are going to do. Okay? Let's move on if you guys don't have any questions. So this is the end of this slide. This is the end of this topic. If you have any question on this, then let's bring it on. If not, then I'm going to just ask some questions from the previous class, because previous class we covered 2 chapters. Any question on this? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, let me just pull up the next topic. I will see how big it is because I don't like to start in the middle. And hold on. I'm just trying to see what is the next agenda item that we have. Okay, yeah, good. So the next topic what we have is our Visio tools and everything. So yeah, so we are going to do it on the next class, the Visio and everything. But this class, let's now, since we have time, do you guys have any other question? Any question?
I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah, but you will have a lot of questions when you will start designing it. Yeah. And it's very obvious that you should come back with the question, because if you don't have a question, then that means it's a bigger problem. Because it is very obvious that you are going to struggle when you are trying to. This is another topic which we need to understand as a business analyst. Okay, what exactly is the business requirement document, how it looks like. You will have all these documents available in the share drive, okay, so you will be able to see it. Now as you see, if you go up, this is the project name. Whatever is the project name, you will know what is the project name. And see, all the industry is not using the exactly same format. Every company have their own predefined template. But the information which goes inside the business requirement document is something which you need to understand. So don't be very rigid about the template. Try to be rigid about that content and the information which goes about under that. So the yellow area just explains that this yellow area just explains some guidelines, some information for you guys to review and understand. This is the table of content which will be there. Then, so go a little slower here. Business sponsor, business owner, this is the document information. That who are the key folks on the project perspective, okay? This is the project ID. So this is specific to one particular application which is called as PlanView. So this is plan view work ID, but you could have altogether different ID. But there could be possibility you don't have that. Okay, so this which is your ClearQuest work order, and so these two are optional. These two are not something which you must have. Whereas project sponsor and all these things, you are likely to have this. All these items you are going to have. See, sometimes these two are one person. So it all depends that what kind of a company it is. Okay, we are going to read about that what different kind of an organization charts are available and how that makes a combination. We are going to read about it, but for now this could be one person. That's what just try to understand. Now, whenever I choose pen, it doesn't scroll. Okay. Again, document approval. Who are the folks who are going to approve this document? You have to write the name and the date. It's required for your own safety so that you know. Versioning. Versioning is at what version, what date, who was the author. Sometimes you have more than one business analyst, then or maybe somebody wrote it half and then they quit. So that for that historical perspective, we keep track of it. Okay, description of the changes, first draft, first baseline version, and then if there are any changes, then you name what changes, what segment of the document is changing. Very important. Distribution list. You are identifying that who are the folks who need to receive this document, whether it is a draft business requirement document or whether it is a finalized document. You must have the list. So list should be inclusive of name, the designation of the person, which department. That is, these two things are optional. Okay, the phone and other things. References. What do you mean by references? References in the same, think about it, let's say there is a mandate. What is a mandate? Mandate means it's happening because it's required by the regulation. By law, that project needs to happen. So wherever that law is published, always the law is published publicly on some link, or maybe there is an attachment which is on the side track of this business requirement document. Then what you can do is you can just name that document and also include that document as an object into the document itself, in your business requirement document. So that becomes your references. Let's move on. These three things are optional. Optional in the sense, you are going to see only one, most of the cases. It would be objective. Okay. The executive summary is nothing, just summarize it on a high level what this project is about. Little more detail to that is a background, and further explanatory detail to that is your objective. That's what it is. Okay. So in the blue boxes you will see that executive summary is something that content executive summary should be copied from the project definition document. There is something called, before the project even starts, there is something called project definition document, PDD. That just have one liner or two liner statement. That becomes your project executive summary. Okay. Background is what? Business or opportunity that leads to this project. So let's say you are outsourcing. Okay. You are outsourcing some project. Why are you outsourcing? You are outsourcing because the problem is your cost. You are trying to reduce that cost. And what is the opportunity? Opportunity is the saving which you can showcase if we outsource the project. That becomes your background. Objective. List the high-level objective of this project. This should tie the project to the priorities and long-term success factor identified by the enterprise. So moreover, why you are doing it. Okay, so end of the day, it has to tie back. Yes. Because why you are doing it? Because you are doing it because that's a company objective. That's how you correlate. Okay. So little essence of our objective needs to be there on the executive summary. It's very important because executive summary is for people on a CEO, CFO, senior director, they don't read the entire business requirement document, they just read the executive summary. Okay. Let's move on to the glossary. Very important place, because you are going to use some abbreviations, some short forms. How do I understand those short forms? I will understand those short forms based on the glossary. So a very important part of the document, because you don't have to repeat the same information, same explanation again and again. You can just put it in the glossary and use a short form in your entire business requirement document. Now, scope, very important. When you are doing a project, you must understand what is the boundary, how far I can go in terms of the requirement. And this is not for you to define the boundary. The boundary will be decided by the people who are providing the requirement. You just need to stick to that boundary. That's what a BA does. So the boundary of the scope is defined by the business, the stakeholders, the people who are providing the requirements. Whereas what you are doing is you are just putting together the plan to execute that boundary, to make sure that nobody goes beyond that boundary. That's what it is. Okay? When you have a question, please stop me. In the bullet point scope, you have two categories. 4.1 is in scope, 4.2 is out of scope. Means what you are going to do, what you can do, what you cannot do. That's what these two options are. Come on, move. Business process impact. This is an optional area. Okay. You may have, you may not have, and 99.9% you will not have, because this template was designed very aggressively. Okay, so 99% of the time you are not going to have this, so I am not going to explain this to you. Current state process map. This is the current state of your application. So let's say you are doing some project. Let's say there is a DMV project which you are going to do. In that DMV project, that application needs to have SSN for all the work which is happening in the DMV office. So that is an enhancement. So the current state would be all the applications where you will not have the SSN, and the future state will be all the applications where you will have the SSN. So accordingly, you will design the workflow, the flow chart you will do for the current state and the process state, because for the future state, because the current state process map, future state process map. It's a map which you have to lay out. Okay. This is the data. Ignore this data. There are few things which are not important in this BRD, because it was later on removed. Now, this topic is very important. Assumption. For any business requirement document, assumptions, dependency, and the constraint must be documented properly for the future tracking purpose. And why it is important? Let's assume you think that, okay, all the requirements are captured, but the way the requirement is given, let's assume that, okay, let me draw it. Think about it. This is system A and this is system B. System A and B communicate today. So this is your current state. Okay. In the future state, they are saying that A will communicate with B. This is your future state. But on the other side, they will have this also. Not regular basis, but one in a month or something like that. This is your future state. So current state is A and B interacting directly. Future state is A is going to interact with C, C is going to interact with B. A will still try to interact with B the way it does today. That is the project. Now, let's say when you pull together the meeting items and everything, B said they don't have any impact from A because they don't have to change this particular file, because whatever A is sending it, they are going to send it in future also. Based on that assumption, B is saying there is no impact. You need to document that in that. That according to B, A is going to retain its current functionality which is there today in this file XYZ, whatever the file is, okay. A is going to retain the functionality, and considering that B will have no impact. So that is an assumption. Let's assume A is doing some work over here and because of that, then what happened? That is a constraint. So accordingly you will write that, okay, as a result of the A's enhancement, if any data element is changed in this XYZ feed, it would be a constraint. Then you write that under the constraint. So that is exactly how you realize or you make a notation how to write assumption, dependency, and the constraint. What is a dependency? A dependency is a reliance that the project has an external factor, event, or group outside the project control. For each dependency listed, include person who is responsible for that item. Oh, it just disappeared. So in the example, just imagine the A, B, C example which I gave, that B was dependent upon A, because unless A will send the data, B cannot process any work. So the dependency was on A. So you need to mention that for successful completion of B's process, A has to send the right information to B. So the process is dependent upon A. That's how you do the dependency. Constraint. In any project I see two constraints, always. Okay, so you should blindly write this constraint, the resource and the fund. These two are the constraints which is there in any of the project. It's there. Because constraint means if that happens, if those things are not there, and if that happens, the project cannot proceed. So assume if the project fund is not there, project can't proceed. On the other hand, if you don't have the right resource, you can't implement anything. So the resource and the fund is always a constraint. Always remember that. And then you start writing about the business requirement, like, okay, requirement for XYZ process, requirement report requirement, user interface requirement, non-functional requirement. So these are the functionalities which you are going to write to say that, okay, these are the bullet point items which are the requirements. Okay, and then these are the description. This is how, like, who is the stakeholder, which is the department which is impacted by this requirement. This one you ignore it. Business process and task, you don't have to do that, okay. Business rules, if there are multiple rules to achieve any particular item, what is the priority, high, medium, low, what kind of a priority it is. The requirement has a reference document. If there is any, then write it. Just want to make sure I don't skip anything. This is again PR2. Default requirement. What is default requirement? You are not going to see default requirement a lot because we're less likely to see default requirement. But a default requirement means the requirement, think about it, some access issue. Access issue have nothing to do with the coding. You can have access issue resolved after moving to production also. So that is some kind of a default requirement. That means even though it is a requirement, but it is not a showstopper because there is no coding impact on the requirement. Use cases. So this is exactly where you will put your use cases. Very less business requirement requires the use cases. Okay, always remember that. So this is just a sample of use case. This yellow box will disappear if you follow the first page instruction. All the yellow box will, these are instruction boxes. Use cases. Business rules. Those are business rules, the same thing on the business requirement perspective. Ignore that. User groups. If there are any user groups, otherwise just be ignorant about that. Acceptance criteria. Acceptance criteria is nothing that, okay, what kind of a work will be done so that the outcome of that work is considered as acceptable. That's what your acceptance criteria is. So you need to document that. What is the level of expectation a business user has? That's what you're going to document it over here. Appendix, where any reference document, anything which you want to showcase in the document, you just make a reference point to appendix and then keep putting together the details over there and the appendix. That's what it is. Now raise your question for me.
It's a pretty long document.
Sometimes you have the document which is almost 200, 300 pages document, because as you see, it's an empty document of 21 pages. See, always remember, just make a note of the points. Your business requirement have to have an objective, then in scope, out of scope item, assumptions, constraint, dependency, then your business requirements, glossary, and the appendix. These are the key items you must have in your business requirement. Rest all is non-negligible, non-considerable, and avoidable. Rest all you don't need that. So other than that, a basic information like, okay, the history of that audit trail, like, okay, who wrote under what version, what is changing, audit trail of the document. Outside of that, okay, approvers list, okay, who is approving when, the distribution list. These are some small things which you don't have to memorize, but you have to have it in your document so that it is for good keeping. Because then you know who gave what requirement, who was present in the meeting, who is responsible for approving it. You have all these information with you. It's very important.
So are we going to practice writing one of these?
Yes, you have to. Because we will do a project and I will explain each and everything during the project, and then you go back and write this business requirement document. What I explain is verbally. What you do is you write the document. Okay? Otherwise you won't learn.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay? So then that's it pretty much. Any other question? But you guys will come back with a lot of questions, okay, for sure. If you are not coming, then maybe you are not reading it. That's how I take it. Okay, so I will get to know tomorrow.
What should I read? Are you going to send some literature? But I couldn't find anything to read.
What I'm saying is whatever you are doing. See, go to Google. I'll tell you an example. Okay, best way. Go to Google, take any case study. Gather some facts on that. That is your analysis. Based on that, write a business requirement document. I'll tell you very recent topic is something in healthcare, affordable care. Go and research. Find out what are the details available. For affordable care, just try to write a requirement. What kind of a requirement you will write. That's how you will learn. Read your document again and again. Then your document will be improved by yourself. That is the best way to do any new learning. Okay?
Yeah, but I mean, how do I get the format of how to write a,
I'm putting
how
in
to
the
get started with it?
this one I'm putting in the shared drive. Okay. This document you will have it in the shared drive. So what you need to just make this as a title and then under that you write it. Similarly, if make this as a assumption title and then write it under that. That's what you do. If you want, I'll put sample business requirement document over there. Which is, see, I don't try to give, otherwise you try to just replicate that, which is not good. You always should try to write your own by just looking at the format. Then you understand that what information will go where. That is the best way. So you struggle more. When you struggle more, you make good judgments and then you correct more. So I'm going to put this document in the shared drive so that you get to know, and then take any topic and research.
Okay.
Okay, that will help a lot, guys. Take my words, it will help a lot to you. Okay, so if you guys don't have any question, I'm going to put a recording and this template in the shared drive, and then you already have access to it. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Try installing Visio 2013. You will find it on the Microsoft